For 3 years, I'd been the sole patron of a rising star named Iris. I'd poured everything into her, my resources, my connections, my time, turning her from an unknown hopeful into a household name. But the day I decided to visit her film set, everything unraveled. She shamelessly skipped out on work to spend the night with her co-star, Leon, in a hotel. I caught her in the act, but instead of remorse, I was met with outrage. She accused me of controlling her life and claimed her success was her own doing. In that moment, she seemed to have a sudden revelation, immediately signing with a rival agency run by a group of women who vowed to get revenge on me, the self-important man who had held her back. Little did she know, I was nothing like the desperate, lovesick male lead from her silly dramas. I didn't beg or plead. I cut her off completely, without a second thought. My name is Elias Thorne, and I don't tolerate betrayal. As for that so-called sisterhood of avenging angels, I'd make sure their entire agency was reduced to ashes. On that fateful day, as the news of Iris's indiscretion spread, everyone on set watched me, waiting for a reaction. But I didn't even blink. My attention had been captured by a young woman in the corner who bore a slight resemblance to Iris. It was lunchtime, and an elderly woman from the catering team had given her an extra chicken meatball. She smiled, a genuine, joyful expression that caught me completely off guard. "Who is she?" I asked. As the head of the Thorne Group, my reputation for appreciating beautiful women was well known. If a pretty face caught my eye, I was known to be forgiving, sometimes even bestowing opportunities without a second thought. Since Iris, this had become rare, but the director knew my habits. His eyes lit up. "She's Mrs. Chen's stand-in," he said. "Her name is Lyra." I nodded. "Since Iris isn't here, shoot the other scenes first." "How's Lyra's acting?" The script supervisor quickly pulled up her audition footage. Lyra moved with natural grace, and her performance was captivating. I glanced at my assistant, Marcus, who had worked with me for years and knew exactly what I wanted. He discreetly spoke to the assistant director, and the tension that had gripped the set finally broke. The whole place buzzed back to life as if Iris's absence had never happened. Lyra was called to step in. Even from a distance, her surprise was evident. She looked up and met my gaze with uncanny clarity. Her eyes were bright and clear, like a still lake. She smiled at me, a vision so beautiful it made my heart skip a beat. Marcus brought Lyra to the Thorne Group's headquarters, a 100-story skyscraper that dominated the city skyline. I had just finished a video conference and was gazing out the window at the cloudless sky. On my desk lay a few thin folders, Lyra's profile. Within half an hour of me showing interest, every detail of her life was at my fingertips. Lyra had grown up in an orphanage. She'd been a good student but dropped out for unknown reasons and started working as a background actor. She had some training in physical movement, which led to her often serving as a body double. I watched her old audition tapes. Despite her lack of formal training, she had an innate charm and a powerful presence on camera. But in an industry as cutthroat as this, talent wasn't enough. Lyra had been unnoticed for years, and being Iris's exclusive stand-in was the most prestigious line on her resume. Her photos didn't do her justice. She was stunning in person. While there was a slight resemblance to Iris, their auras were entirely different. No one would ever confuse them. I assessed her potential. My final verdict was an S+, the same rating I had given Iris years ago. I had nurtured Iris for 3 years, transforming her into a superstar. Her face was unforgettable, seductive and alluring, but her aloof expression gave her an air of proud elegance, as if she were destined to be worshipped. Everyone in the industry believed I was completely smitten with her. As the head of the Thorne family, I had always maintained a spotless reputation, devoid of any scandals or romantic entanglements. Iris was the only exception, and she knew it. I never denied my patronage. To me, whether it was love or not didn't matter. As long as her desires were reasonable, I would grant them. My parents had taught me that those who stand at the top have 1,000 ways to relieve stress. My way was simple: I appreciate beauty. It's human nature to love beautiful things, and I have always been honest about that. Iris had exactly the kind of beauty that appealed to me. I was always busy with work, with little time or emotional energy to spare for multiple women. So for years, there had only been Iris. This was partly due to my desire to avoid trouble and partly due to my obsessive pickiness. Iris wasn't gentle or considerate, and she had her moments of frustration. But for a face I liked, I was willing to be more lenient. Ultimately, I am a businessman, not a philanthropist. I had high expectations for Iris, and she delivered, bringing the company returns far beyond my initial investment. My feelings now were simple: I was disappointed. Disappointed that the girl who once looked at me with eyes full of dreams had cast her career aside for a cheap romance. She had brought an entire production to a halt, forcing everyone else to pay for her selfishness. That crossed a line I couldn't forgive. I never give second chances. Back on set, when Marcus asked how to handle the situation, I gave a simple, firm order: suppress it. Deduct any PR fees from her paycheck. And since Iris's contract is almost up, start pulling her endorsements and production resources. The Thorn Group doesn't keep freeloaders. If she can't do the job, someone else will. When Lyra knocked and entered my office, I noticed a faint beauty mark beneath her eye. Her lips were full, her features softer than Iris's. She lacked that arrogant haughtiness, instead possessing a serene warmth. Taller than Iris, with a shapely and elegant figure, she looked like a fallen heiress from a noble family, despite her simple clothes. Yet her eyes always held a hint of a smile, as if her soul was perpetually at peace. When she saw me, she paused for a brief moment, then her smile deepened, as if she were genuinely happy to see me. "Good afternoon, Mr. Thorne," she greeted politely. I didn't waste time explaining why she was there. I slid a file across the table. "You haven't signed with any agency yet," I said. "This is a contract." For an unknown like Lyra, a Category B contract was incredibly generous. But she didn't even look at it. Her eyes went straight to a different, black folder next to my hand. She smiled slightly. "Is that the other option?" she asked. "Can I choose that one?" Her boldness and intelligence surprised me. I responded with a question of my own. "Do you know my relationship with Iris?" She took a moment, her lips pressed together. "She was your woman," she replied. "Everyone knew." "If I sign that one," she continued, "do I become your woman too?" Her bluntness took me off guard. Her eyes were impossibly clear, like an untouched sky. Her words could be easily misunderstood, but there was no flirtation in her tone. I stayed silent for a moment. "Lyra," I said, my voice softer, "I don't like to force anyone." I had never been stingy with opportunities for beautiful women, but I'd never had ulterior motives. That one smile from her had genuinely moved me. The contract was simply a generous gift, no strings attached. The Thorn Group has remained at the top for so long because of a core principle: constant self-reflection. When things don't go as planned, we analyze the reasons to correct our course. As things soured with Iris, I allowed myself a brief moment to wonder if I had made a mistake. Perhaps I gave her the wrong idea, making her think I would retaliate if she left, which led her to go behind my back. But the truth is, I've never cared for forced possession. As CEO, I'm constantly surrounded by people trying to win my favor, including countless women. I'm far too busy to waste time fighting over a woman. Even if Iris had been a good companion and we shared some happy moments, I'd seen too many sides of her today. Once, to make her smile, I rented out an entire amusement park just for her. She had been my acknowledged partner at countless events. In our most intimate moments, she would wrap her arms around my neck and whisper my name. But now, the photo showed a completely different woman, entangled with another man, her eyes glazed over in a way I had never seen. Iris used to be a terrible liar. Now, she could lie to my face without blinking. When she said she was sick, she was in a hotel room with someone else. I knew her real-time location. The indecent photos were delivered to me within minutes, and I quietly had them suppressed. Not out of lingering feelings, but because a scandal would damage the company. I knew she had developed feelings for Leon, her co-star. I had noticed her distraction and emotional distance. People change. I didn't take it personally. I simply decided to treat her like any other employee. She had been the one to fight for a place by my side, and I had simply gone along with it. I had no issue with it ending. What I didn't expect was how far things had already gone between her and Leon. My last-minute visit to the set had been a mistake, and now I had to deal with the consequences. A breach of contract has consequences, and I don't force anyone. If she's unwilling to work, I will simply replace her. Lyra looked at me for a few seconds, her eyes holding an emotion that was difficult to define, like sunlight on a calm lake, shimmering with life. She had stunning eyes, gently curved and sincere. I was momentarily distracted, breaking my own rule to offer an explanation. "If you sign this contract, you'll have a solid future at the Thorn Group." To my surprise, she smiled, not out of mockery, but genuine happiness. "Mr. Thorne," she said, "if I become your person, you're the one getting the short end of the stick." Her lips curved gently. "After all, Elias Thorne is the crown jewel of the Thorn Group. A business legend. You are perfect." She was more tactful than Iris and, frankly, more aligned with my preferences. I slid the black folder toward her. It was an S+ contract, the same as Iris's. Of course, after what happened, I had added far more restrictive clauses. Lyra didn't even read it. She flipped straight to the last page and signed her name with a few crisp strokes. "You can have a lawyer look it over," I reminded her. "No need," she smiled. "I don't have anything worth being cheated out of. Besides, Mr. Thorne wouldn't deceive me." A feather seemed to brush across my heart. I'll admit it, I was pleased. By the time I finished work, the moon was high in the sky. I took Lyra to one of my villas, a quiet, private property I had bought just last year. Iris had never been here. I told Lyra to register her fingerprints in the system. "This place hasn't had any other visitors. The housekeeper will take care of anything you need." She nodded, looking strangely happy. "What is it?" I asked. "So this is your place," she replied, "and now it will be just for you and me, right?" She knelt to help me change my shoes, her head tilted up. Her white silk blouse framed her figure elegantly. I couldn't hear what she said, distracted by the view down her collar. "Stop using honorifics," I said. She smiled at me again with that same unreadable, soft-eyed expression, wet and glimmering like a kitten's gaze. "Okay," she said. Lyra was born for this. As her fingers gently kneaded my shoulders, my mind began to drift. The room was quiet, the only sound the fabric beneath her touch. The warm, dim lighting was sleep-inducing. She was kneeling beside me, and for the first time, I saw a hint of nervousness in her expression. "I don't have any experience," she whispered, her cheeks tinged pink. "I'm afraid you won't like it." I was about to reassure her. Honestly, even with Iris, I hadn't cared much. But then Lyra tied up her hair and whispered, "So I want to try something else first. Is that okay?" My silence was permission. Her lips were warm and soft. The temperature in the room began to rise, the air growing hazy. At first, her kisses were clumsy and unsure. She froze a few times, afraid of hurting me. Her medical report had been clean, she had never dated anyone. I had asked her if it was her first kiss, and she nodded, promising to learn fast. Now, experiencing her lips and tongue, I understood just how fast she could learn. Her progress was astonishing, addictive. I didn't even notice my phone vibrating beside me. The screen lit up, incoming call Iris. When Iris called for the 6th time, I finally picked up. "What is it?" I asked. "What are you doing? Why aren't you answering your phone?" she shot back. Iris was clearly oblivious to the photos. Her agent had been sick, and her assistant only dared to inform me first. There was a hint of displeasure in her voice, but she quickly revealed her intentions. "Elias, wasn't the lead role in Director Parks the Moon supposed to be mine? Why haven't I received a casting call?" The Moon was an award-winning show, and Lyra needed a Best Newcomer title. I had assigned Damien, our top agent, to Lyra. He had just returned from medical leave and was incredibly efficient. He had already laid out a full career plan for Lyra for the next year, including this role. Iris had been eyeing it for a long time, wanting to transition into more serious productions, but it suited Lyra better now. "Because I gave it to someone else," I said, my tone casual and indifferent. "Are you questioning me, Iris?" She fell silent, then tried to soften her tone. "Elias, you know I've been preparing for this role. I've been sick, so I've been a little irritable. Don't be mad at me, okay?" I couldn't hear her. My fist had clenched, and I let out a muffled grunt. Iris's voice stopped abruptly. After a few seconds, her tone no longer steady, she asked, "What are you doing?" But I didn't have the time or energy to respond. The call ended. The phone had slipped into the sofa, and in the next instant, the whole world erupted. I've always been a light sleeper, but that night's rest was unusually deep. When I arrived at the office, Marcus reported, "Miss Lou has been waiting for you." I was surprised. I thought she had a schedule today. Marcus paused, his expression hinting at speechlessness. "Alicia was hospitalized. Miss Lou tried to ask me for your address last night, and when she didn't get it, she barged into your residence. Alicia couldn't stop her." "Don't tell Alicia about any of this for now. Let her focus on recovering," I replied, my expression cool. "Bring her to the meeting room." Iris clearly hadn't slept. Her face was unwashed, her eyes bloodshot, her clothes a mess. She had lost her glamorous facade. I stared at her for a few seconds. She's gotten uglier, I thought. At least not as pretty as Lyra was last night. And I've only ever had patience for beautiful people. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, but then she pressed her lips together, trying to suppress her fury. "Elias, where were you last night? What were you doing? Why did you hang up on me and not answer my calls?" I ignored her, tossing the thick stack of paparazzi photos from yesterday onto the table. Her voice cut off instantly. Her face turned deathly pale as she stared at the explicit photos. Panicked and flustered, she looked up. "Elias, it's not what it looks like. Yesterday I cut her off. The PR team is already talking with Monarch. Their plan is for you and Leon to fan the fake couple hype and then go public with your relationship." Iris was a top-tier actress I had personally made famous, while Leon was a nobody from a rival company, Monarch Entertainment. The man in the photos was blurry, but Iris's face was crystal clear. They had co-starred as a couple in Sweetheart Contract, so pretending to be a couple for publicity was part of the job. But while I was abroad, the buzz around their ship had gotten out of hand. Marcus had investigated and found that most of the paid fan traffic came from Monarch. There was no way those photos weren't orchestrated by them. Monarch had been unusually quiet yesterday, waiting to see how I would react. Everyone knew Iris was my person. This was a blatant provocation. But with the evidence right in front of me, I didn't lose my temper. The Thorn Group simply suppressed the photos. Monarch must have felt triumphant, ready to name their price. They were convinced I would protect Iris, but they were wrong. I hate being set up. If I could create one celebrity, I can create a second. No one in this world is irreplaceable. The office air conditioner hummed softly, but Iris was breaking out in a cold sweat. She half-crouched, looking up at me with an innocent expression. Elias, I really was sick yesterday. I felt dizzy the whole time. Leon came to see me, and I don't remember much, but we didn't do anything. I pushed him away pretty quickly. I was afraid you'd misunderstand, so I hadn't figured out how to tell you yet. You were set up, Iris, I said, stating the facts coldly. She didn't hear me. She stared at me, trying to catch the slightest shift in my expression. Is that all you have to say to me? She asked, her voice trembling. I frowned. What else do you want me to say? She bit her lip. You knew about it yesterday. Why didn't you react at all? We've been together for 3 years, and you don't even ask me why. But the moment she chose to start something with Leon, it was over between us. I didn't need to know the story behind that choice because from that point on, she had nothing to do with me. Every choice comes with a price, and after-the-fact explanations are just empty words. What kind of reaction do you expect from me? I asked plainly. Pain? Jealousy? Anger? Do you want me to demand answers? You never cared about me, she snapped, as if I had struck a nerve. You always treated me like a pet, an object. Have you ever seen me as your equal? Do you even have feelings? My fingers, holding the coffee spoon, paused. With her emotions this intense, she was likely speaking from the heart. She must have felt this way for a long time. I felt a pang of absent-mindedness. Thinking back, I couldn't even recall the emotion in her eyes when she first came to me. Her approach had felt forced, her performance obvious. I had seen through her little schemes, her determination to rise by using me, but I hadn't disliked it. I had admired it. Opportunities go to those who are prepared. So, was I angry? Yes. After 3 years, it would be a lie to say I didn't like her at all. But in Elias Thorne's life, feelings like liking never took up much space. More importantly, I was especially good at detaching from negative emotions. Compared to the humiliation of being cheated on, what I felt most was the displeasure of being disrespected. I accepted her accusation calmly. Iris, you give yourself too much credit. You and I were never equals. Not in social standing, not in emotional dynamics. It has been that way from the first day you started following me. The emotion in her eyes shattered. She stared at me in disbelief, her hands clutching her skirt. She let out a bitter, self-mocking smile. But I no longer had the patience to watch her performance. My tone grew colder. Did you really think I wouldn't be this ruthless? That I'd fight to win you back? She went blank. I had hit the mark. She had mistaken my indulgence for something she deserved. My generosity had become the foundation of her confidence. Just because I'm not chasing after you doesn't mean you'll walk away unharmed. Iris, I'm not a philanthropist. Revoking all her privileges and resources, I knew she would soon be looking for her next patron. The best option now would be Monarch, ready to sink their teeth into this prize. If she defected, it would be a blatant provocation. My father once taught me that the essence of power is making others fear that damaging your interests will harm theirs. When someone crosses you, you must retaliate 1,000-fold. But my mother also taught me that when you stand at the top, a bit of grace goes a long way. So I had no interest in destroying Iris outright. Monarch, on the other hand, was different. Seraphina, the heiress of the Sterling family, had just taken control, but there were still rival factions within the company. After a disheartened Iris was escorted out, I stared at my coffee cup, a delicate metal spoon tapping against the dark liquid. In the reflection, an expressionless face stared back at me. A moment later, I allowed my lips to curl into a faint smile. Those who covet what belongs to others must be prepared to pay the price. Seraphina, if you can't keep Monarch in check, I won't mind taking it off your hands. Everyone at the Thorne Group knew that Iris had fallen from grace. Making someone a star is hard, but shelving them is the easiest thing in the world. Iris's career took a nosedive. Her schedules grew sparse, and she couldn't even get into my office anymore. In sharp contrast was Lyra. With the return of Damien, the company's top agent assigned to a single newcomer, no one was stupid. The moment they saw Lyra's face, they understood. Iris, who had no contact with Lyra, had no idea. No one would warn her that would be asking for trouble. The only thing that surprised me was that Iris still hadn't reached out to Monarch. They had offered a generous deal, an S-tier contract with breach penalties fully covered. They were desperate to sign her, so why had she stayed in the Thorne Group, a place that was clearly neglecting her? Was she waiting for a better offer, or did she have another motive? I soon got the answer. On the audition day for the Moon, Iris showed up uninvited. Though it was an audition, Lyra was my candidate. As long as she didn't mess up, the role was hers. Lyra's scene was a fight sequence. Her eyes sparkled, her brows were elegant, and every movement highlighted her graceful form. Her breathing remained calm and steady. As the biggest investor in Director Park's production, I had a close relationship with him. His eyes lit up as he watched. With talent like this, Mr. Thorne, he teased, you didn't need to show up. A single word from you would have been enough. You had me worried for half a month. I paused. It was true. I almost never came to the set or attended auditions. I was too busy. I frowned, wondering why I had come. It was probably because I wasn't at ease. Also, Lyra had asked me if I ever watched her dramas. Iris used to make all kinds of requests, but Lyra never asked for anything. She only asked little, irrelevant things, like whether I watched her shows or when I had free time to check my phone, because she wanted to share interesting things with me anytime, anywhere. Simple. Never fake. She was so pure she would blush if you teased her, which made me wonder how someone like her could be bold enough to offer herself to me so easily. She was so different from Iris, and I treated her accordingly. While I was lost in thought, Lyra, having changed out of her costume, walked over to me. The director's team had tactfully moved away. Lyra looked like she had something to say, but she just smiled, her eyes curved and radiant. Stunning and refined, full of grace. Success brings a glow. Though I had only been supporting her for a short time, she was already more dazzling than before, like an uncut gem shaped by my own hands, now polished and glowing. Beautiful. I looked at the genuine, unpretentious emotion in her eyes and felt my breath catch. I lifted my hand to touch the faint beauty mark beneath her eye. Elias. A familiar, resentful voice cut through the soft, hazy atmosphere. Iris stood behind me, wearing a baseball cap, her face a mask of indignation. Her gaze fell on Lyra, her eyes cycling through shock, confusion, fury, jealousy, and fear, until all that remained was deep-seated hatred. "So it's you," Iris sneered, her lips curling. "That little stand-in, right? What now? Stand-in on set, stand-in in bed too?" Her voice grew increasingly hysterical. I frowned, noticing she was alone. I guessed she had snuck in. I glanced at my phone, planning to have someone escort her out. I had lost all interest in talking to her, especially now that she was acting so unhinged. Lyra responded calmly, "Miss Iris, your words are vile. Mr. Thorne's personal life has nothing to do with you. And besides, if the problem lies in yourself, don't blame others for seizing an opportunity. Mr. Thorne, wow, you sure know how to suck up," Iris snapped, her face flushing red with anger. "And you dare talk to me like that? What the hell are you even?" Her words became more and more outrageous. "Mr. Thorne really has no standards, huh? All this time, you've been busy screwing her, right? A conniving bitch like her, probably sleeping her way to those roles. Who knows if she's already caught something nasty from outside." Bang! I slammed the folder hard against her face. "Iris," my voice was icy, "can't speak like a human being anymore? Or did I spoil you so much that you actually think you're somebody?" Iris stared at me, covering her face, dazed. I looked up. "I've already called someone to take you back. Don't embarrass yourself out here." Her face went pale, and she trembled. In a voice full of disbelief and despair, she shouted, "Elias, the Thorne Group gave all my resources to her, didn't they? Is that what this means? You don't want me anymore? Just because of her, you're completely done with me?" Iris had a middle school education. Even before, communication with her wasn't always smooth. I struggled to understand her thought process, but in this moment, I finally understood why she hadn't left the Thorne Group. She probably thought she could salvage our relationship. Laughable. My patience had finally run out. "This has nothing to do with Lyra," I said. "You're being kicked out because you skipped work to sleep with another man, were stupid enough to get caught on camera, and damaged the company's image and interests." She suddenly stood up, her chest heaving, her eyes burning with fury. "Elias, I didn't get famous because of you. It's the Thorne Group that can't live without me, not the other way around. I'll be just fine without you. Just wait and see." The entire set fell silent. Security had arrived. I didn't spare her another glance. "Get lost," I said. It wasn't until we returned to the villa that I realized Lyra had been unusually quiet, but the way she massaged my shoulders was still as gentle and meticulous as ever. I looked up at her. Not happy? Although I had stood up for her, Iris's words had been harsh. It was natural for Lyra to be upset. Her fingers paused. Under the lights, her pupils shimmered in a warm amber hue, soft, clear, and pure. "No," Lyra said softly. "I just think it wasn't worth it." "What wasn't?" She pressed her lips together and didn't answer. "Iris has nothing to do with me anymore," I said, understanding. "If you want to curse her a little, it's fine now. But she was someone you used to like," she replied. I paused. "Like? Back then, I did like her. Otherwise, why would I have chosen her? But if something could be taken back so quickly, perhaps it was never that precious to begin with." Lyra crouched beside me, her face close to mine. "Mr. Thorne," she said. Her eyes were full of an emotion I couldn't decipher, glistening and soft like overflowing moonlight. "What's wrong?" I watched her trembling lashes. "I'm not dirty," she said, her voice light but with a hoarse edge. "I haven't been with anyone else. I'm very clean." Of course, I knew that. I had seen her medical reports. Her casual tone was tinged with a subtle grievance. The official, detached response I had prepared caught in my throat. I leaned down and gently kissed her soft, moist lips. I didn't say a word. The temperature rose. In our most intimate moment, her eyes seemed to say 1,000 things. In a broken, whispery voice, I thought I heard her asking, "Did you do it for me? Do you still like her? If you don't like her anymore, could you spare just a little for me?" But I wasn't sure. Because she said, "None of that matters." "Then what does?" I instinctively asked. She stayed silent, and I didn't press further. Starlight blanketed the vast universe, and everything melted into the moonlit galaxy. Iris officially terminated her contract with the Thorn Group. Monarch sent someone to negotiate the penalty fees. I let her go without a fuss. Amelia, my cousin, was a distant relative, a third cousin of mine. She was a pampered heiress but an enthusiastic agent, bold, loyal, and driven. She had given her all to Iris, always fighting for resources. Who would have thought Iris would sneak off while she was sick, skip work to date, and then jump ship to Monarch? Once Amelia got the full story, she shot up from her hospital bed, livid. She cursed Iris, that ungrateful snake, for 3 straight hours. By the time I went to visit her, she was so energetic she looked ready to storm Monarch and beat Iris up. "Mr. Thorne, you just let that backstabbing idiot walk away like that," she fumed, her teeth grinding. She gave up being the Thorn Group's top actress to get her blood sucked dry by Monarch, a sitting duck waiting to be gutted. And Monarch, those rats dare pull this dirty stunt? I swear I'm going to hang a protest banner outside Serafina's house. The moment she saw my expression, she paused. "Cousin, you've got a plan, don't you?" I toyed with an orange. "It's actually better that she's gone. Some things are hard to do while she's still at the Thorn Group. The fallout from the Iris and Leon situation would have tarnished our reputation. So what's the plan? Come on, tell me." "I had someone look into Monarch's and Iris's upcoming schedules," I said slowly. "They're planning a big slate of IP adaptations, 5 historical dramas, 3 modern romances, 2 fantasy series, and 1 spy thriller, and we have all the air dates." Amelia's eyes lit up. This was business warfare. "I've reviewed the quality, too," I continued. "Not hard to beat. We'll match Monarch title for title, genre for genre, and launch our shows in the exact same slots." Amelia gasped, then gave me a thumbs up. "This is savage. Only you could pull this off, Mr. Thorne." "As for Iris," I added, "she's not that dumb. Monarch wants to bleed her dry, but it won't be that easy. There's going to be infighting sooner or later." Amelia's mood improved. "Wait a second," she whispered. "I heard you've been mentoring a newbie lately. Lyra, right? So now it's not just the Thorn Group versus Monarch, but Lyra versus Iris, too?" I answered flatly. "Then I'd say Iris doesn't stand a chance," Amelia said, clicking her tongue. "If Lyra rises by stepping on Iris's back, she'll go absolutely mad. Lyra used to be Iris's stand-in." "I need to stay a step ahead," I said calmly. "If Iris dared to use that fact against her, I'd make sure she experienced what it meant to be utterly crushed." But Amelia's smile faded. "Cousin," she said thoughtfully, "it feels like you're putting more effort into this one than the last." "Really?" I frowned, then said, "Maybe it's because Lyra is more." "More what?" I hesitated. Logically, in this industry, there's no such thing as someone truly clean, but Lyra made me feel like she deserved to be protected. My phone buzzed twice. It was a photo from Lyra, her beloved thermos. The surface was worn, but etched near the bottom, so small it was nearly invisible, were the initials of both our names. "If you don't want anyone to notice, why bother engraving it?" I had asked her once. "But I still kind of want people to know," she had said quietly, a flicker of melancholy in her eyes. "I'm not good enough, so I don't want to be your stain." In that instant, a random thought floated into my mind: if she's willing to care about me, that's good enough. Meeting Amelia's sparkling eyes, I absent-mindedly finished the sentence I'd left hanging. "She's prettier." Lust clouds judgment. It must be because she's just too beautiful. Beautiful enough to mess with my head. Amelia gave me a knowing look. "Got it, Mr. Thorne." The falling out between Monarch and Iris happened faster than I expected. Iris refused to promote Monarch's newcomers and wouldn't go public with Leon. For a top actress in her prime, going official was career suicide. But Monarch didn't care. They wanted their tightly controlled Leon to ride the wave. Infamy is still fame. Iris's job hopping wasn't glorious, and her fans didn't know the truth. But they knew she was being sidelined by her new agency. The resources from the Thorn Group were high quality and plentiful. Monarch was stingy. They started lining up fast cash gigs for Iris, treating her like a cash cow. Iris was miserable. She had visibly lost weight. She started nudging her fans to pressure Monarch, but Monarch played dead. I initially wondered if they had poached her just for a trophy, but then I found out the real reason for Monarch's attitude. 1. Iris's refusal to cooperate had seriously pissed them off. 2. They were convinced that even after she left, I would still quietly provide her with resources. In their eyes, Iris had me wrapped around her finger. They thought I was like a lovesick puppy, secretly shielding her from the shadows. When I first heard this rumor, I found it absurd, until Marcus told me, Mr. Thorne, since Monarch changed CEOs, the entire executive team has been women. I was speechless. That explained it. Fake feminists with twisted mindsets always think men should automatically sacrifice everything for women. Still, Monarch's situation was a little sad to see. I couldn't help but think of Lyra, the way her eyes drooped, her expression soft and sorrowful. She said she didn't want to be my stain. Her eyes were dim, her voice gentle, heartbreakingly delicate. So, no, you can't lump everyone together. Marcus's face was marked by faint disgust. Monarch, they're all the same, just a pack of snakes. I looked down and signed a document. Then I'm afraid they're going to be very, very disappointed. Iris came looking for me again. According to Marcus, she had been frantically trying to find me. I knew why. Things weren't going well for her at Monarch. Her interactions with Leon were stiff, and most of their fans had scattered. Her loyal solo fans were attacking Monarch, but Monarch could grind her down. They signed her onto a string of low-budget, poorly made idol dramas. Iris, who had planned to focus on serious dramas, was now a cash cow. She was miserable. In a short time, she'd visibly lost weight. She no longer had the confidence that came from being with the Thorne Group, so she put her mask back on, the one she wore the first time we met. She looked at me with desperate, pained eyes. Elias, she said softly, would you still be willing to take me back? My gaze moved slowly across her face. She tried to clean herself up, but she wasn't as refined as before. The makeup felt heavy and artificial. I realized maybe it was just because I'd been looking at Lyra too much lately. Now, when I looked at Iris, even her face felt utterly unremarkable. I didn't say a word. Iris just stood there, stubbornly staring at me. Her regret was real. Her feelings were real. Her fear was real. Her pain, too. But she still felt fake. There was no ripple in my heart. I simply looked past her. Lyra was walking over, quick steps and a smile on her face. She didn't even glance at Iris. The joy in her eyes was as genuine as ever. Iris stared at me in a daze, her tone shifting. You came to pick her up from work? I didn't respond. I just reached out and took Lyra's hand. Behind me, Iris's voice turned sharp, overflowing with unwillingness and venom. Elias, she's just my stand-in. What does she have that I don't? If you want to keep her, I don't mind. I can be with you too, we can share. She was truly throwing everything away. The proud girl from before was now saying something like that. I was briefly surprised. I tilted my head and saw that Lyra's expression hadn't changed. If I hadn't noticed the way the hand in mine had curled up ever so slightly, I might have believed she wasn't affected. I decided to tease her. What do you think, Lyra? Lyra didn't answer. She lowered her eyes and waited quietly. After a while, she said, if Mr. Thorne thinks it's good, then I think it's good too. I'll lie. She actually lied to me. This new side of Lyra surprised me. Since I had no interest in dealing with irrelevant people, I said flatly, I don't think it's good. In an instant, Lyra's eyes lit up. She tried to control her expression, but the joy spilled out uncontrollably. It was contagious. I reached out and gently patted her head. As for Iris, she was taken away by security. Whatever she shouted behind us, we didn't hear a word. No one knew what Iris was feeling. But the very next day, a wave of gossip flooded the internet, accusing Lyra of using underhanded means to rise to fame. She must have paid for the smear pieces herself. She was completely unhinged, but she knew who she couldn't mess with. She didn't dare mention a single word about me. As public opinion heated up, Amelia and Damien were lounging in my office, sipping the tea Lyra had brewed for me. What a terrible move, Amelia said. I never realized she was this dumb. Damien, focused on the tea, said calmly, Lyra's been progressing steadily. That desperation is showing. What's there to be desperate about? Amelia scoffed. People are calling her Little Iris. It's not like she's going to overtake the original anytime soon. Damien gave a faint smile. She couldn't before. Now she can. Just then, Marcus walked in with a data report. The Moon's premiere rating just broke 3. On the tablet screen, a heroine in snowy white robes moved like a dream, graceful, ethereal, light as air. She turned her head, her gaze bright, her lips curved in a soft smile. Aurora is here, she said. In an instant, the live comments flooded the screen. So cool, so cool, so cool. Good performance, Damien assessed. Glad I signed her up for all those classes. She really is gorgeous, Amelia said in surprise. Looks a bit like Iris, but a totally different vibe. Mr. Thorne, you've been watching the Moon this whole time? I said. I promised. I had promised Lyra I would watch her show, so I squeezed it in during a meeting. The moment I saw the opening, I knew Lyra had already won. Aurora was an incredibly likable character, brilliant and skilled. She fought alongside her partner, and they grew together. Her kind of role was exactly what the market wanted. As for Iris, her own idol drama, Romantic Encounter, had also aired that week. Its first episode couldn't even crack a 1.0 rating. Did Iris get some tweaks done? Amelia said, watching the premiere. She looks rough, probably from being squeezed dry by Monarch. She looked completely worn down. The comparison was brutal. The data was a slaughter. The tides turned, Damien chuckled. After tonight, who's the real stand-in? Hard to say. You're all so evil, but I love it. Amelia clapped her hands. This is nothing, Damien said. Our boss still has his next move lined up. Monarch, right? Taking without asking is theft. And a thief who steals from us, we don't stop until their bones crack. Marcus frowned, clearly disapproving of Damien's tone. Things that are stolen, I said, taking a sip of tea. If I say I don't want them anymore, then they're worthless. And a worthless thief is nothing. Of course, that was a lie. Something stolen might be a precious gem, but once it's stolen, all it can ever be is a stone. Because I'm not a generous man. That night, public opinion flipped. Lyra and Iris's performances were night and day. Influencers started posting sarcastically, who's the real stand-in now? The comparison was brutal. Anna was officially famous. And not just any kind of fame. She rose by stepping over Iris, igniting her own star with a bang. Taking down Monarch turned out to be even easier than I imagined. While Iris's and Lyra's fans were at war online, Monarch didn't even notice that the Thorn Group had perfectly lined up its new drama schedule. Every Monarch drama was crushed by the Thorn Group's counterpart. When Monarch launched a historical drama, we launched one too. When they released a modern romance, so did we. The Thorn Group had a ton of projects, endless capital, and put quality first. In every genre, Monarch shows were eclipsed, their ratings so abysmal they didn't even dare include the numbers in internal reports. Stock prices plummeted. It was a swift, brutal, overwhelming defeat. Streaming platforms began treating Monarch like a plague. Their productions weren't completely trash, but comparison is the sharpest blade. When placed side by side with the Thorn Group's big-budget, high-polish releases, they didn't stand a chance. Monarch couldn't hold out any longer. Or rather, Serafina couldn't. She sent people to feel out the situation, but Marcus politely sent them away. She never even got to see me. The entire industry saw it clearly. Monarch had offended me. The Thorn Group went all in, burning through half of Monarch's investment projects. In less than a month, as the Thorn Group kept dropping new trailers timed perfectly with Monarch's launches, Monarch's internal factions finally collapsed. Members of rival factions came to meet with me. No one knew the details of those conversations, only that afterward, the Thorn Group reported a large outflow of funds suspected to be used to acquire Monarch shares. Serafina broke. She came to me begging for peace, apologizing, saying how hard things had been for her, saying she was just a girl. A girl, huh? I replied with a flat, mocking smile. President Serafina, you're in your 20s. Still calling yourself a kid, don't you think that's a little ridiculous? Serafina's face stiffened. I sat back, perfectly composed, watching her performance. Then I tossed a folder onto the table. Take a look. She didn't understand at first, but the more she read, the paler her face became. Her lips trembled. With a loud thud, she dropped to her knees. The folder contained solid evidence of Monarch's illegal activities, which I'd gotten from Leon. The guy was trash, ambitious and scheming. After tricking Iris, he secretly took photos of them and teamed up with Serafina to pull off their plan. Miss Sterling, I said, you know exactly what this folder is worth. My advice, retire early before you get burned. An hour later, Serafina left the Thorn Group looking like a ghost. Monarch had officially changed hands. At the end of June, The Moon was nominated for the Golden Screen Awards for Best Drama, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Screenplay, and Best Scriptwriting. Serafina's resignation didn't cause much of a stir. I didn't have the time or interest to clean up the mess. I picked up a few promising artists and projects and handed the rest to Amelia. She definitely held a grudge and completely ignored Iris, who began to fade from public conversation. Iris tried everything to reach me, registering countless new phone numbers. But the difference in our social status was now too great, and I had instructed that she not be allowed near me. So no matter what she did, she never saw me again. Her contract with Monarch further restricted her freedom. No one dared to offend the Thorn Group, so no one was willing to sign her. She was trapped. The entertainment industry replaces people in the blink of an eye. Now, Lyra had taken Iris's place at the top of the food chain. Thanks to The Moon, she won both Best Newcomer and Best Actress at the Golden Screen Awards. A meteoric rise. At the awards ceremony, Lyra walked on stage, holding her thermos. I want to thank someone, she said. He is my moonlight and my benefactor. The silver initials on the cup shimmered faintly. I applauded from the audience, unable to stop the subtle ripple in my emotions. But in the end, all I told her was, "You don't have to mention me. I don't need anything in return," because investing in her had already given me nearly 100-fold return. That was the truth. Lyra smiled at me. Her eyes held that same unplaceable glistening emotion. "I just wanted to leave behind some trace that I once stood by your side." "What?" She smiled gently. "I see the bright moonlight cast upon the beams. I do not ask to grow old with you in the years ahead. I only wish to walk with you tonight and share this moment." It was the final line Aurora says to the male lead in The Moon. I had never seen anyone in this industry perform with as little trace of performance as Lyra. Unless she wasn't acting. Lyra was still smiling, gentle, sincere, radiant. "There may be many Lyras in this world," she said, her voice reverent, "but there is only one Elias. So this admiration for the moonlight upon the beam was always mine alone. None of that really matters." "What does?" I didn't say it out loud. She didn't answer. She only answered in her heart. She looked up at me and thought, "The moon hangs high in the sky. All you have to do is look up." In a previous life, I had spent a lifetime with Illyra, but without any true connection. On her deathbed, she held my hand and said, "Ethan, at the end of it all, you stayed by my side. I suppose that's not so bad." She seemed to have no regrets about choosing me over her crush and was satisfied that I had handled our daily life well over the years. But I heard the resignation in her voice. I never wanted to be someone's second choice. Yet fate gave me a chance to return to the year I was 20. I asked myself if I would be willing to live the same life again. The answer, of course, was no. I wanted to stay away from her and do something more important. I had been married to Illyra for 50 years. On the day she passed away, a faint smile still lingered on her lips. I stood up silently and gazed out the window. I thought, if there's an afterlife, I will never marry Illyra again. When I opened my eyes, I saw a row of tall, lush white poplar trees on campus. A chalk-covered ruler tapped my shoulder. "Ethan, repeat the force analysis I just mentioned," the university physics teacher said, frowning at me from the podium. I stood up and saw the teacher glaring. A teasing voice from the back row immediately shouted, "Teacher, he's not in our class, he's just here to accompany his girlfriend." The teacher's face darkened, and he turned back to write on the board. At this moment, Illyra spoke up. "I don't know him." The classroom fell silent. My heart pounded. Illyra was youthful, but already had an air of aloofness that made people hesitate to approach her. She was always cool and proud, a highflower whose beauty had captivated me. At this moment, she was colder than ever, showing no mercy. It felt like she was deliberately trying to embarrass someone. I gave a wry smile. She was just as I remembered from my past life. I said, "Yes, teacher, I'm not in this class, and I'm not familiar with her." I bowed slightly. "Sorry for disturbing your class. I'll leave now." Illyra's hand paused as she flipped through her book, but she remained seated by the aisle, blocking my way. After class, the teacher called me to his office. Before he said anything, he irritably tapped my head. "Silly boy, it's obvious she's not interested in you. Can't you see that?" I nodded. "I can tell, uncle. I won't come to your class anymore." My uncle looked at me suspiciously for a while, then waved his hand and went back to his desk. As soon as I left the office, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. Someone clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Ethan, the cafeteria's got a new orange-flavored soda. Want me to buy you one?" When I shook my head, Marcus quickly added, "Then let's go to my dorm and listen to the radio. I just bought a Shanghai Red Lantern model, the sound quality is amazing. I'll play some classics for you." He started humming, "Let life float with the wind, let ideals forever shine." I straightened out the wrinkles on my clothes. I have to prepare for an internship at the Northern Research Institute. I have a lot of things to do, so I won't be hanging out with you. Marcus grabbed my arm. "Ha, so sudden. Who am I supposed to hang out with?" "You and Illyra can hang out together. You don't need me to be a third wheel." "It's fine." Marcus slowly let go of my arm, and the smile on his face faded. I turned around just in time to see Illyra leaning against the wall, her head lowered as she fiddled with her notebook. She suddenly looked up at me. "Don't worry about him, let him go wherever he wants." After saying that, she quickly walked over and grabbed Marcus's hand. So many things to deal with. Although she didn't look at me, every word felt like a knife stabbing into my heart. 50 years had passed, and this scene felt like it belonged to another world. But when I heard it, my heart still clenched with discomfort. Back then, I would do whatever I could to make myself adapt to this pain until it became a part of my life. I asked, "Don't you want to know when I'll leave?" Illyra snorted coldly, and Marcus hurriedly interrupted her. "Ethan, when exactly are you leaving? Why so sudden?" I pushed up my glasses and looked at the row of white poplar trees in front of the experimental building. "When all these leaves turn yellow, it won't be long." Since that day, I stopped attending classes. The decision to go to the Research Institute was sudden, but preparing the materials took a lot of effort. I was flipping through a stack of brochures about the institute when my uncle suddenly knocked on my bedroom door. "My student's here." She said she wanted to ask me some questions, but after dropping off her things, she won't leave. "Maybe you should come and have a look?" I tugged at the corner of my mouth. "Just leave the door open. Uncle, you go ahead and prepare your lessons." The northern autumn came early with a hint of chill in the air. I still hadn't heard the sound of leather shoes tapping on the concrete floor. By the time I lifted my head from the mountain of paperwork, the sky outside had already darkened. I walked into the living room. Illyra was as if she had never been there. The fading sunlight streamed through the old windows, casting long shadows on the floor. This silence suddenly made everything feel surreal. For the next few days, I focused on researching the institute. I grew up with my uncle, and after my parents left me some money, they each went their separate ways with their lives. In my past life, I never saw them again before my life came to an end. But this mutual indifference between us had allowed me to live freely. I told my uncle about the research institute I had chosen. He said, "That institute is quite good, it's top-notch in the domestic navigation system field. By the way, Illyra has been asking about where you're going. It's rare for that girl to show interest in someone. Why don't you talk to her yourself?" I sneered. "Uncle, aren't you the one who can't stand me being clueless and always getting in the middle between Illyra and Marcus? You're even embarrassed to admit you have me as your nephew in the department." Uncle sighed heavily. "I'm just worried you might be impulsive when it comes to emotions. Think carefully before you regret it." I nodded. "Don't worry, Uncle." The next day, I went back to the department. I didn't expect that the news about my internship had already spread throughout the entire year. My roommate, seeing me sorting through my materials, couldn't help but mock me. "Hey Ethan, aren't you an orphan? How come you can afford to go to a research institute? My dad said anyone who can get into those top units isn't an ordinary person. How could you possibly get in?" I casually picked up a mechanic's notebook and flipped through it. Then I threw it straight into the trash can. The guy reached out to grab it but froze halfway. I said coldly, "Didn't Marcus tell you? I'm not leaving these materials for you. After all, he promised you benefits, right?" The guy hurriedly explained, "No, it's not about Marcus. He didn't say anything." I paused for a moment as I packed my bag. "Really? Then you're just looking for trouble, aren't you?" I grabbed my canvas bag and turned to leave. The guy wanted to follow, but I stopped at the door and pointed at him from a distance. "I've always suspected there was a thief in the dorm. Things keep mysteriously disappearing. I wonder which thief will take my notebook this time." His face turned pale instantly. He turned and rushed back into the dorm, angrily pounding his fist on the wall. I walked out of the dorm in big strides. Looking up at the sky, it was a rare good day. The intensity of the autumn heat was already weakening, but faster than the autumn chill was the arrival of an unexpected person. Just as I reached the school gate, someone suddenly snatched my canvas bag from my hand. "Are you going to the Beijing Research Institute? Aren't you majoring in navigation technology? Don't you plan to do the same job as your parents anymore?" I was taken aback. Illyra had somehow found out all these things I hadn't even had the chance to tell her yet. I said calmly, "I think my parents are too far away. Maybe I'll meet them even if I'm not working in the same field. Who knows, one day the navigation system they use for their missions might be something I helped develop. Isn't that another kind of reunion?" Illyra let go of the bag. It dropped to the ground, and its contents scattered everywhere. This kind of bag was indeed inconvenient. I crouched down to start picking things up. Illyra irritably kicked aside a notebook that had fallen by her feet. "Is this junk really worth you coming all the way back for? Not even worth saying goodbye to me?" I looked directly into her eyes and asked, "With what identity should I say goodbye to you, Illyra?" Illyra looked confused. "In my past life, we only got together 5 years later. By then, we had already started working. Marcus went south, got involved with the daughter of a military industry CEO, and quickly got married. A month later, Illyra came to find me and asked if I wanted to get married, even though we hadn't seen each other in 3 years. Without hesitation, I agreed. When we were young, we always thought time could heal everything. As long as I could be with Illyra, everything else could come later, including making her truly love me. But 50 years had passed, and I still hadn't achieved that. Ironically, just a few days after my rebirth, I became indifferent to Illyra, and in return, I saw the care I had longed for in my past life. But I saw through it. Illyra didn't have me in her heart. At least not now. She was just not used to it. I didn't wait for Illyra to speak. "Illyra, besides you, who knows that my parents are researchers, right? Everyone thought I was an orphan. Like Marcus, who was walking toward us." Illyra frowned. "I never told anyone about it. You never liked talking about your family." "That's true. Among the 3 of us, only Marcus thought I was an orphan." Illyra bit her lower lip. "What exactly are you trying to say? Marcus hasn't said anything about you. You should trust him." To outsiders, Marcus and I were the closest. Logically speaking, he should be the one to keep my secrets. I didn't answer but watched as Marcus, dressed in dark blue work pants, pushed his bicycle toward us. I stepped back, bent down to put the scattered materials back into the canvas bag, and casually tossed it by the stairs. Then I turned and walked out of the campus. The news of my internship spread quickly. Some were envious, some made sarcastic remarks, and some said, even if you make it big, don't forget your old classmates. Some even wanted to throw me a farewell party. In the old-fashioned auditorium, Illyra sat alone on a bench in the corner, as silent as ever. The ceiling fan whirred, and when my classmates saw me push the door open, they cheered. Welcome the first student from our department to enter a top research institute. Ethan, come up on stage and perform for us. I heard that institute has very high standards. How about giving a professional presentation? Looking around, I saw all familiar faces. Mostly it was a group of girls Marcus usually hung out with, along with their roommates. I walked up to the stage and grabbed the microphone. Then I'll sing Carefree Walk. Before anyone could say anything, I started the accompaniment. When I sang, maybe you've never wanted to tell me and I don't want to ask you why, Illyra shifted in her seat. Her long hair hung in front of her face, hiding her expression. The line before that was, so I will forget your memories. She remained motionless. This entanglement between the three of us should finally end. When the song finished, a few scattered claps came from the audience. I walked to the desk, grabbed a bottle of soda, and took a big gulp. The auditorium became lively again. Classmates rushed to the stage. Various off-key singing filled the air, making everyone laugh. Illyra suddenly spoke. Ethan, you said that for love, one should be brave, right? I looked straight at her. Yes, both love and indifference. Her gaze fell on Marcus, who was now laughing with a group of girls. So it's fine for him to have so many girlfriends, right? He just changes girlfriends more often, but he hasn't done anything wrong. I've always thought he's just an outgoing person. Illyra turned her head to look at me. So I don't believe he leaked your secret, even for this gathering today. Even if it's related to him, I don't think he did it on purpose. Ethan, I never thought you'd be so paranoid. You've really disappointed me. I shook the half bottle of soda in my hand. So what? What? Illyra, you've always known I like you, haven't you? She quickly turned her face away, avoiding my gaze. I continued, to you, the one who makes the first move is the humble one. The outgoing person is just being themselves, while the one who isn't likable is blamed for everything. I've never thought that way. Illyra reached for the soda on the table, but the pack of cigarettes beside it fell to the ground. She subconsciously looked at Marcus, who was talking and laughing with the girls. Then she awkwardly picked it up. I laughed. Illyra, you're actually quite hypocritical. Your feelings are like the sludge in a stinky drain, unable to see the light. And yet they're notorious, and everyone holds their nose in disgust. Illyra's face turned pale. She grabbed a cigarette, clumsily lit it, and took a deep puff. It seemed like she was doing it out of spite. Such a loss of composure was rare for her, but I found it disgusting. I stood up. Love can stay in your heart, but you shouldn't sacrifice others to fulfill yourself. Illyra, I won't give you the chance to use me anymore. From now on, it's better if we remain strangers. Illyra always believed that Marcus wouldn't spread those rumors about me behind my back. She was also convinced that this farewell party, which reeked of his involvement, wasn't some carefully planned scheme. In her eyes, it was all me making a fuss over nothing, deliberately targeting him. It didn't matter anymore. I came today just to say to my past self, it wasn't worth it. After the party ended, I locked myself in the lab and focused on studying the principles of the navigation system. As finals approached, Marcus came looking for me, which I had anticipated. He was as carefree as usual, casually slinging his arm over my shoulder. He pulled a stack of yellowing technical documents from his bag and pushed them in front of me. Here, this is good stuff. I had someone get me some internal materials, all the latest. I flipped through the documents and seriously read a few pages. He saw this and slowly stopped smiling. I thought you were mad at me. Seems like I was overthinking. I closed the file. What are you talking about? Marcus paused for a second. It's nothing. As long as you're not mad, let's just forget about the past. By the way, Ethan, why the sudden decision to go to Beijing? I didn't want to bring up your family, worried it might upset you, but turns out I misunderstood. Turns out your family is doing so well, and your parents are fine, too. You managed to hide it so well. You call yourself a brother? I thought we were close friends. Close friends, he said. Illyra and I had known each other since childhood, and her parents were both teachers, just like my uncle. My uncle wasn't only her teacher but also an elder in her life. So Illyra and I naturally became close. But her temperament was always cold. After more than 10 years of knowing her, I was still closer to Marcus, who had known her for only a year. I said, because I focused on my studies and with you around, always shaping the image of a poor student, people actually thought you weren't that kind of spoiled rich kid. Marcus, I admit I often hung out with you for my own reasons. I knew Illyra liked you, but she couldn't bring herself to admit it. With me around, she wouldn't have to bear all those rumors. Illyra wasn't willing to admit that she had fallen for someone with a bad reputation. When the three of us appeared together, she could pretend that I was her target, not Marcus. We each had thoughts we couldn't voice. None of us ever broke the silence. Now, it was better that it all ended here. Ethan, are you fucking crazy? Marcus clearly didn't think so. You're saying Illyra can't admit she likes me? Ha, you really think too highly of yourself. You're just a bookworm who only knows how to bury yourself in research. You've been hanging around with us, no wonder everyone calls you a useless guy. You think following me around will make you look normal? Let me tell you, if I weren't covering for you, people would already be calling you a freak. I'm doing you a favor by hanging out with you. You think you mean something? He snatched the stack of documents I had brought from me. Someone like you, all poor and shabby, wants to go to a top research institute? You're a joke. An orphan, who knows what backdoor deal you used. There are rumors now saying you're playing sugar baby to some female leaders. You know it yourself. Only then did I realize. Illyra hadn't told him about my family. This was her usual style. She had her flaws as a person, but she always stuck to her principles. And with that cold, beautiful face, she was bound to be the object of a lost boy's dreams during their youth. I laughed bitterly. Let the grudges and misunderstandings end here. Now that we've said everything, let's go our separate ways. Marcus, I advise you, take care of yourself. Don't do anything stupid. I know all about your dirty little secrets. Marcus clearly didn't take my words to heart. The day the institute's assignment came through, I went to the department office to collect the materials but was held back. They insisted I call my parents. The school could easily pull up my records. It would show that both my parents were alive and well and were key researchers. The department head, peering over his thick glasses, stared at me. Ethan, you've always been a diligent and good student, never causing trouble for the department. But recently, all these rumors have been circulating, and yet you've said nothing. This makes it hard for the department. Going to such a prestigious research institute, understanding your family background is crucial. But with your current situation, it's going to be difficult to write a strong recommendation. It was all so ridiculous. But since things had escalated to this point, I had no choice but to find a way to resolve it. The rumors on campus had grown more outrageous. They said I couldn't possibly get into any research institute and was trying to use connections and backdoor channels. They claimed I was just a poor student who couldn't handle the tough life and was looking for shortcuts, selling my body for favors. Strangely, this explanation seemed quite convincing. Walking around campus, I could hear whispers everywhere. They said people like me, if not severely punished, would set a bad example and lead others astray, encouraging them to be lazy and irresponsible. It was hard to believe that in this day and age, when announcements were still being made through loudspeakers, Marcus had somehow spread the rumors so quickly and widely. They even dug up the notebook I had given my roommate, which was obviously quite expensive. Some people even claimed those items were Marcus's kind-hearted gifts to me. They said I took them and then claimed them as my own. They had falsely accused me of being greedy and shameless. But these rumors were easy to clear up. I pulled out my bank account statement which showed I had $1 million in savings since birth. With that kind of proof, even in the 80s, it would command respect. Once the bank statement was presented, those rumors were instantly shut down. I didn't bother clarifying anything else. After all, this was a prestigious polytechnic university, not a place where rumors could easily gain traction. I successfully got all the materials needed for the research institute. Once the official assignment came through, I would be able to report to the institute. The time had come for early autumn, and the department was about to start its break. I thought everyone had forgotten about the whole matter. But unexpectedly, Marcus, with his swollen eyes, threw a punch at me as soon as I opened the door. I looked at the person standing beside him. This is my uncle's house. You're bringing people here to cause trouble? Illyra frowned. I didn't know he would get physical. Can you stop always thinking so badly of me? Ethan, you've changed ever since that class. You're always suspicious of others. Is it because you were too silent back then and we didn't notice this side of you? Or did I misjudge you all along? What a scoundrel. I was about to call the police. But then I thought there weren't even any cameras around, and no one would vouch for me. So I raised my hand and slapped her. It was Illyra I hit. Illyra, not only are you deaf, you're blind, too. Why are you acting crazy for no reason? I don't welcome you here. Get out. Illyra, stunned, covered her face. You hit me? What's wrong with you? Is it because I didn't publicly acknowledge you as my boyfriend that you've been holding a grudge all this time? But we weren't even in that kind of relationship. What's wrong with me denying it? We were caught in the middle of this argument, forgetting that Marcus was still there. He suddenly pushed his way between us. Shouting, he said, Illyra, have you forgotten why we're here today? Illyra's expression hardened. Ethan, apologize. Apologize to Marcus. I sneered. Apologize? What a joke. Marcus accused. Ethan, I've always considered you my best brother. Why would you insinuate in front of Illyra that I spread those rumors about you? I thought your parents had passed away, but I'm not the only one who thought that. What gives you the right to say I was scheming behind your back? I looked at Illyra. Did you ask him? Yes, what's the problem? I just wanted to know the truth, she said coldly. Indeed, there was no problem. I spoke slowly. Actually, you're the only one. If anyone else thought so, it must have come from you. Marcus, remember the time you said you never heard me mention anything about my family? You thought it was too hard to bring up. I smiled and didn't respond, and you took that as me agreeing. The next day, the dorm mates were going through my drawers looking for pictures of my parents. What does that prove? Maybe others thought the same way? Marcus was still arguing. I continued, that time I lent a Casio calculator to a classmate. He later told me that you said in the cafeteria you were worried about my family situation, afraid I might have psychological issues. That night, the research team even held a meeting to pressure me about my family background. Marcus, do you remember how little time had passed since the freshmen had just enrolled? Ethan. Illyra suddenly slammed her fist on the table, her voice filled with anger. So you knew what Marcus was doing behind my back all this time, and you still acted like nothing was wrong and stayed friends with him for a whole year. Seems it was all fake. You never considered him a friend, and you didn't care about me. After all these years, I thought you felt something for me. Was it all an act? I leaned against the door, watching her with a cold expression. How did I treat you? Illyra, don't you know that all these years I've liked you, yet you've shamelessly used my feelings to get close to Marcus? What right do you have to accuse me? Illyra suddenly fell silent, turning her head away, her long hair covering her pale face. Then don't go to the research institute. As long as you don't go to the research institute, I can. I interrupted her. What are you? Who are you to control my decisions? Illyra, you like me? Marcus's voice suddenly drowned mine out. At that moment, he seemed to have lost his usual confidence. He wasn't lacking anything, but he still wanted all the girls to love him. I slammed the door shut. I didn't want to see the hesitation in Illyra's eyes. The assignment hadn't come yet, but I was already on the train to Beijing. Little did I know that our next meeting wouldn't be until the 1990 National Science and Technology Exhibition. While I was adjusting equipment at the main booth, I saw Illyra. She was walking with Marcus. That wouldn't have been noteworthy, but what made me look twice was the slight bulge in Illyra's abdomen. Illyra met my gaze, her expression calm, and she showed no intention of explaining. The hall was crowded, and I had no time to think further. After setting up the booth, I was suddenly pulled into the equipment room. In the darkness, I quietly listened to the sound of someone's breathing. Someone rested their head on my shoulder. Ethan. The voice trembled. Illyra was suppressing her emotions, not wanting anyone to notice she had been crying, but she didn't know her tears had already soaked my lab coat. I pushed her away. I have work to do. She grabbed my sleeve, unwilling to let go. Why did you lie to me? What? The 762 Institute doesn't even have you. I understood. I applied to 3 institutes. The conditions there were too poor, so I went elsewhere. Then why didn't you tell me? Or why haven't you called me even once all these years? Ethan, is your heart made of stone? I shook off her hand. Didn't we make ourselves clear? Don't make me feel disgusted. She froze in place. You never gave me a chance to explain. I wanted to say if you stay, I can admit in front of everyone that you're my boyfriend. I won't be with Marcus, but you can always be by my side. You'll forever have the title of my boyfriend. So that's it. In the past life, those 50 years were nothing but her charity, letting me hang on to her husband's title. Not so I could be mocked by others. No wonder she always treated me with such indifference. I said, let me be clear, Illyra, I don't love you anymore. I used to see only you, but now I realize a world without you is so much bigger. Compared to all this, you're really insignificant. Sorry, I have to work. Illyra wanted to say something, but I cut her off. Why don't you ask me what my relationship with Marcus is? Why don't you ask whose child this is? Why don't you ask how I found out where you were? Ethan, I came to Beijing for you. I walked out the door without looking back. I handled my work pass at the corner and put all of it behind me. Soon, I learned the answers to all these questions from Marcus. Marcus came uninvited. He said that the day I locked him and Illyra outside the door, he asked Illyra, did Ethan say you didn't dare to admit you liked me? Is it true? If you dare, I'll break up with my current girlfriend immediately, and we'll be together. I'll only have you from now on. That day, Illyra kissed him first. They became very public about their relationship. They even planned to throw a party and announce it to the whole department. But no one could find me. By then, I was already on a train to Beijing. Ethan, you're the best at pretending. You hide it really well. You left without saying a word, without a single goodbye. All these years, you've watched me put on a show in front of you, flaunting my half-baked skills, and I bet you've been laughing at me all along, haven't you? Marcus held the teacup, sipping it every now and then. Seeing him enjoying his tea, I still reminded him, "You're drinking too much hot tea. It's not good for your stomach." Suddenly his emotions flared, and he slammed the cup on the table. "Stop pretending to be the good guy, Ethan. Don't act like you're above it all. If I were like you, born into a family of scientists, surrounded by cutting-edge technology from a young age, never worrying about food or drink, I'd be in your position by now. But everything I flaunted in front of you, do you know how hard I fought for it? People like you, from wealthy families, look down on people like us. If you started from the bottom, you wouldn't be any better than I am." I set my tea down and looked at him. "Are you done?" I wasn't here to listen to him vent his emotions. Marcus froze for a moment. "You used to love listening to me talk like this." "Well, that's because back then you were so pathetic, so eager to win Illyra over. For her, you'd do anything, even suffer alongside me." Seeing my impatience, he suddenly gave me a smug smile. "Do you want to know whose child is in her belly? It's mine." The night I left for Beijing, I wasn't in the auditorium, and Marcus watched as Illyra left alone. During that time, Illyra would often drink alone. Day by day, she got drunker and drunker. One night, after drinking herself into oblivion, she encountered Marcus. In her stupor, she mistook him for me. Later, she found out she was pregnant. She went to Marcus and asked him what to do. She said that although what happened that night was a mistake, he also had responsibility. Marcus sneered and asked her, "Didn't you say you only wanted to be with Ethan? What are you pretending to be so pure for? Illyra, you've been with so many people over the years, but none of them ever caught your eye. You got drunk and mistook me for him. Do you know that you were calling out his name that night? Do you want me to send those recordings to him?" Illyra's face turned pale. "Enough." In the end, she kept the child. "Do you want to know what happened to that child in the end?" Marcus asked, leaning back in his chair. "And why the child in her belly now is mine again?" I honestly wasn't interested. I glanced at my watch, pretending there was a meeting I had to attend. Back then, even pagers weren't commonly used yet. Marcus was staring at the digital watch on my wrist with blatant jealousy. I smiled. "Sorry, I have to leave now." He wasn't willing to give up. Later, he had someone deliver a letter to me detailing everything in the story. Letter from Marcus. "Ethan, I still want to clear things up with you. At first, Illyra agreed to let me take responsibility, but she quickly asked me to go to the hospital for an abortion. You're a man, so maybe you don't understand, but in our circle, if something like that gets out, it means a lot. I'm often gossiped about behind my back, and if the abortion actually happens, I can't even imagine how people would twist the story." I begged her not to go, but just like you, she disappeared without a word. She went south to find her father. Her father had abandoned her mother and started a new family, and he became the leader of a research institute in the south. She went to beg him to transfer her to work there, but her father completely denied her. And she still didn't care about the shame and went anyway. What's even more laughable, you didn't even go to the 762 Institute. She lost face for nothing, and it's all her own fault. After she had the abortion herself, I went to find her and demand an explanation. Without saying a word, she pinned me down on the bed in the guest house. "Ethan, this is what happened. Does it disgust you? If it does, then don't bother her anymore. You're on the rise now, it's better for you not to get involved. Otherwise, I can do anything." The handwriting was sloppy, filled with mistakes. It was clear he had written it in a rush. Some parts even contradicted each other. I guessed he must have written it secretly in the office. I looked at the final sincerely and couldn't help but laugh. I turned to Illyra, who was sitting across from me, her face filled with unease. Things not going too well with Marcus? No wonder. Two young people who had just graduated. One had a bad reputation and had finally gotten someone pregnant. The other had always been aloof, now pregnant before marriage. In such a conservative era, they must have faced so many rumors. They were transferred one after another, probably because they really couldn't stay in their original units anymore. Marcus, however, clung to Illyra, likely because he was eyeing the connection she had. He wanted a higher position, more important projects, but the people who could help Marcus achieve this weren't just Illyra, were they? His girlfriends, his godmother, didn't they all have connections? He shouldn't have been without help. Illyra interrupted my thoughts. We really couldn't stay there anymore. Marcus refused to let me get an abortion, and he went around shouting that the child was his. At that time, I let him spread the word about our relationship, and when I denied it, no one believed me anymore. So I transferred away. "I just didn't expect to run into you here." She asked if I knew what price she had paid to get transferred to Beijing. Seeing my lack of interest, she gave a self-deprecating smile and continued, "At that time, I really hated it. I just wanted to vent. That's when Marcus came to find me. I've never regretted anything more than that impulsive day, but now I'm pregnant, and the child is his. He threatened me not to get rid of it, and I didn't dare take that risk. I can only continue to bear this mistake. In just a few days, I had heard enough of their entanglement. I said, I guess this is fate. So why are you looking for me now, Illyra? She was silent for a while, her eyes suddenly growing complex. Do you believe I've been reborn? My hand suddenly stopped on the experiment logbook, and the pen tip spread into a smudge of ink. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. Illyra spoke to herself, you should believe me. Maybe you've been reborn too. Otherwise, how do you explain your sudden 180-degree turn in attitude toward me? 50 years, did that exhaust all your patience for one person? After being reborn, you just want to live a different life. She thought the reason I didn't want to repeat the mistakes of my past was because I had gotten what I wanted and no longer valued it. I said, maybe it's because I've experienced it and realized it wasn't worth it. Or maybe over the course of these 50 years, I've regretted not choosing my own life more than once. The regret accumulated over time finally brought me the chance to choose again. Illyra suddenly looked up, her body trembling slightly. So that's how it is. Then have you ever thought about why I might also be reborn? Maybe I've been regretting it all along. Regretting not realizing sooner that you are the person I should have cherished the most. To be honest, hearing her say that did stir something inside me. But so what? What I cared about now was no longer how to make Illyra love me. Besides, her timing for the so-called rebirth didn't make sense at all. At the moment she woke up, I should have already been long gone from her life. She insisted on attributing her rebirth to me, but it made no sense. I thought that Illyra and I could really go our separate ways from then on, with no more entanglements. But to my surprise, by the turn of the millennium, I was already a key figure in the research institute, and Illyra and Marcus's child was already 4 years old. We got entangled once more because of something that happened. After a technical exchange meeting, Marcus went berserk and smashed some equipment, getting escorted away by security. He claimed to know me and insisted on confronting me face to face. The security guards didn't dare to act on their own, so they had him wait in the meeting room until I finished my meeting. After the meeting ended, I didn't go to see him. I went straight to find Illyra and asked her to take care of him in the meeting room. This was an important technical exchange conference. Illyra had just passed the assessment and joined the institute as a researcher. She was sitting quietly in the audience, taking notes. She didn't expect me to notice her, and when she saw me, she looked a bit awkward. Long time no see, Ethan. I nodded. Your attire today is not quite appropriate. Were you not prepared? She paused for a moment and then awkwardly adjusted her collar. I was rushed and didn't have time to prepare. I said indifferently, Marcus is causing a scene in the meeting room, saying he wants to confront me, but I don't want to see him. Can you go take care of it? Illyra stood still. I'm telling the truth. Marcus and I have already separated. We have no contact except for the child. I nodded. Then can you go get him? Illyra muttered under her breath, unbelievable. Then she turned to me and said, as expected, this is who you are. In the past life, you thought you loved me, so you spent your whole life by my side. This life, you think it's not worth it, so you don't even want to maintain any connection. You probably don't know, but this resolute side of you makes me even more attracted to you. I'll handle Marcus, but next, it's the battle between you and me. Ethan, I'm going to seriously pursue you. I'm going to pursue you properly. I helplessly closed my eyes. The only words that kept bouncing in my mind were, this is insane. Illyra truly followed through with her words. Marcus no longer had the right to stay at the research institute. For all these years, he had been sneaking in and out with temporary IDs. Illyra reported him. The security office no longer issued him a pass. That was ruthless. But it was typical of Illyra. She had never acknowledged her relationship with Marcus. She made excuses, saying she was still on probation. She didn't want to repeat the same mistakes from before. Marcus was scared, too. A man with a child, he didn't dare speak publicly about their affair. So the child stayed with him outside, unable to enter the research institute anymore. Marcus had no other option. All he could do was call me every day, cursing me out, saying I ruined his life. It's all your fault. You ruined me. Why did you have to appear in my life? If I hadn't seen you with such a bright future, I wouldn't have been dissatisfied with my situation, thinking about how to change things, thinking about how to climb the ladder. I wouldn't have severed ties with all those people who could help me. If I hadn't cut those ties, I'd still be young and could use those old connections to get plenty of benefits, and life would still be easy. But now I'm stuck with this burden. In the past few years, Illyra hasn't cared about me at all. I can't even find a way out. I've become a waste. Who would help me now? It's all your fault. It's your fault you made me see that people can live a different life. Ethan, you better never come back. If you dare come back, I'll do everything I can to drag you down with me. Marcus had grown up with his elderly grandmother. His parents had endured a lot of hardship in their early years but eventually couldn't stand the poverty and abandoned him. Poverty had followed him his entire life. He was the one who truly tasted hardship, and he was the one who went astray. Before entering university, he was already out there messing around, looking for a way out. The child he forced Illyra to take responsibility for wasn't even his first. He had insisted on Illyra keeping the child because he was afraid he'd never get another chance. Back when I was tormented by rumors, I had considered revealing all this as revenge. But then I thought, if I did that, I'd be no different from him. In the end, the truth came to light, and everything was clear. But now, with the situation as it was, if Marcus wasn't going to make peace, neither was I. What era is this? News travels fast. It's too easy to ruin someone's life. I stared at him and said, "You think no one knows about your connections outside? The reason you couldn't leave before was because of that, wasn't it?" Marcus instantly understood what I meant and gritted his teeth. "Fine, if you don't come back, I won't cause you trouble. But don't you dare spill my secrets." We shook hands on it. To my surprise, not long after, Marcus got into trouble. He went to a female leader's house, and in the middle of the night, he was wandering around in nothing but his underwear when the leader's husband returned home unexpectedly. There was a fight, and Marcus was kicked out of the house. The female leader chased after him, trying to stop him, but during their struggle, her head struck the cement platform in the yard, and she died on the spot. When Marcus was arrested, he was still yelling, "Why aren't you protecting me this time? You deserve this. You were the one who invited me here. As soon as your husband shows up, you turn your back on me. What kind of person are you?" In the end, Marcus went mad and was sent to a psychiatric hospital. It wasn't long before he jumped off the roof of the hospital ward, and just like that, it ended. When the news of Marcus's death reached me, Illyra was waiting for me outside the cafeteria, hoping to have lunch together. As I walked out, she had just put down her pager. I asked, "Aren't you going to check on it?" Illyra tried to take the materials from my hand, but I pulled them away. She awkwardly smiled and said, "I've had nothing to do with him for a long time. Why would I go back?" "Then what about your daughter? You're not going to check on her either?" She's never called me mom." "That's because you never acknowledged her." "Illyra, I really don't understand. People like us, ordinary folks, why do we always care so much about false reputations? For the sake of face, you can even abandon your own flesh and blood." She struggled to maintain composure. "But how do I explain suddenly having someone else's daughter? I didn't really want to get involved, but growing up alone is tough. Even if it's Illyra's daughter, to me, she was still a stranger." I couldn't help but say, "Illyra, why do you always feel the need to explain yourself? There aren't that many spectators in life. No one's watching your every move, and no one needs to know the details of everything you do. Why do you care so much about what others think? Can't you just live for yourself?" She stood at the cafeteria door, defeated. She remained silent for a long time. But that's not what the world taught me. Everything I've been through tells me that the only way to get what you deserve in this world is to please it. What is it that you think you deserve? Your father's connections? His status? Your father abandoning you and your mother was wrong, but his current achievements are the result of his own hard work. If he had stayed with you back then, he'd still be just an ordinary researcher. Why should his current position be yours? I had said enough. She obviously wasn't listening. I stopped engaging with her and began preparing the paperwork for the transfer. No one knew why I suddenly chose this direction. I didn't find out until the end of my previous life that my parents had sacrificed themselves for the country when I was born. They were killed during a mission, and their bodies were never recovered. So I had to continue their legacy. I wanted to make my country stronger so that no one would have to sacrifice themselves like my parents did. Everything I had done was for this. To smoothly transfer, I asked my uncle to help take care of Illyra's daughter. He was supposed to help with the adoption process. Illyra had to stay behind. I wrote an application, and she was left there. She had no choice. She couldn't prove her relationship with the child. With no valid reason, she couldn't get leave either. When the institution found out that I was being transferred and taking on an important project, they asked her to come back and take over my work. I didn't expect her to be arrested for espionage. She had tried a few times but couldn't get anything out of me, so she accepted a new assignment. While stealing information, I caught her red-handed. I reported it immediately. When she was taken away, she insisted on seeing me before she would confess. "Ethan, your obsession with reincarnation wasn't really about me, was it?" I said, "Love, whether big or small, should always be treated with sincerity. I love my parents, and I love this land. But for you, that love is long gone." Her shoulders trembled uncontrollably. I thought that if I made achievements in the future, I would gain my father's recognition and get access to his resources, but now it's all over. She suddenly shook her head. "No, you're right, there's no such thing as what should have been. There's no such thing as how it should have been. Even reincarnation can happen. But if I get another chance, I'll still lose everything, leaving only regret. There should be no expectations in life. You can't rely on a second chance. Every moment should be treated as the only one. You should live well and live with integrity. I watched her being taken away, my heart filled with mixed emotions. At least in this life, I had no regrets.